The 2016-2017 Harley-Davidson SuperLow 1200T. Add saddlebags, a detachable windshield and a 4.5-gallon fuel tank to a Sportster and you have a mini tourer, that happy balance between an around-town bar hopper and a hit-the-interstate pocket bagger. It's been a long time, over 10 years, since Harley did away with the vibration, plenty hard mount engine. The SuperLow 1200T enjoys the benefits of the rubber-mounted Evolution engine with a smoother ride and better rider comfort for long miles in the saddle. Departing from the traditional Sportster peanut tank, the SuperLow 1200T comes with a teardrop fuel belly and the quick-release windshield lets you go bare for an around-town ride or pop it on the bike for trips up the highway. Continue reading for my review of the Harley-Davidson SuperLow 1200T. Design. Traditionally, Sportsters are tall bikes, and used to be top-heavy. A slammed suspension drops the 1200T into hugger range with a 26.13-inch seat height, and the rider triangle arrangement leaves the rider with plenty of leverage to manage the lowered center of gravity. Not only is the bike low, but it's narrow too, a combination that makes for a straight shot to the ground. Add mid-mount controls to that equation and you have easy access for short inseams and confidence for folks new to two wheels. I couldn't find a definitive answer on the laden seat height. In some documentation, Harley gives it as 25.5 inches and in others, it says 26.1. I guess quibbling about a half inch is really just splitting hairs, and since neither my husband nor I weigh exactly 180 pounds, separately or together, I couldn't measure it myself. Low is low and salient point is that I can reach the ground. One small point that always makes me smile is self-canceling turn signals. Yeah, it's a small point, but I'm smiling. I know self-cancellers aren't new and a lot of bikes out there have them, but there are plenty of bikes that still don't, and I think it's worth a mention when they do, especially when the bikes isn't a big touring model. Harley announces proudly that this is a 1200 Sportster with a chrome air cleaner cover emblazoned with those words. Also chromed for the bling factor are the headlight visor, speedometer and rear turn signal bar, not to mention the chrome accents on the black timing cover. Add these touches to Harley's benchmark quality paint and there's no doubt you're on a premium ride. If the lockable saddlebags aren't enough, docking points for a luggage rack and sissy bar give you options in the accessories catalog. No longer a necessity out of said catalog is the battery tender harness, which is included as standard equipment on the bike as of the 2017 model year. Chassis. Typical of sporties, the twin downtubes form a double cradle to support the engine-transmission assembly. Gone are the days of the old hard-mount engines, and this frame floats the engine on rubber mounts that absorb much of the hideous vibration with which we used to have to contend. The low stature, 4.2 inches of ground clearance, and steering head angle of 31.1 degrees leaves the 1200T with 5.9 inches of rake, perfect for a blend of straight-line stability and cornering behavior. You won't be hitting the corners too awfully hard, since you only get 26 degrees of lean to the left, and 25 to the right. Nothing spectacular, but sufficient for the cruiser it is intended to be. Cast aluminum, 5-spoke wheels mount the 18-inch front, and 17-inch rear tires, and a big 300mm front disc with 34mm pistons and rear caliper to match provides the bindage. Even though the factory doesn't give up the dual front brakes, it's a light bike, and ABS is an available option if you want to maximize braking safety. Drivetrain. Based on the original Evo Sporty engine from 1986, the beating heart of the SuperLow 1200T has changed very little since then with the same all-in-one engine, primary drive, transmission unit and parallel pushrod geometry. As usual, the engine cranks out tractor-like torque figures with 70.8 pound-feet of grunt, and it comes on early, maxing out at 3,500 revolutions per minute. This gives you a good hole shot, for what that's worth in the city, and if you wind it up just a little you will find that it comes alive and almost begs for more. Air-cooled jugs display 73.4 cubic inches and the engine is slightly undersquare with a 3.5-inch bore and 3.811-inch stroke. It's not a terribly long stroke relative to the bore, but long enough to influence the torque numbers and are typical of the brand. Electronic fuel injection contributes to the 48 mpg combined mileage, and the closed-loop exhaust system keeps everything copacetic with the emissions folks. A 5-speed transmission and belt final drive come geared for reasonable highway RPM. Pricing. MSRP on the 2017 SuperLow 1200T is $11,899 for basic vivid black, just $100 more than last year, and $12,249 for a solid color option, $12,449 for a two-tone colorway, or $12,599 for a custom color. For 2017, pick from vivid black, billet silver, mysterious red sunglow, velocity red sunglow. New for 2017, you can choose custom colors in Black Hills Gold, Black Quartz, or Bonneville Blue, Fathom Blue on the SuperLow 1200T. Adding the ABS option will set you back another $795, and the security options adds $395 to your bill. Competitors. Finding it tough to find a competitor as storied as the Sportster, I went with the Bonneville T100 from Triumph as a match. Triumph has a long history, and though these bikes serve the same purpose, the T100 is as British as the Sporty is American, almost like two sides of the same coin. Both bikes retain their classic engines, with the 45-degree V-twin on Harley's side, and the old-school Triumph Twingle on the far side of the pond. Both engines run with air cooling, so no ugly radiator to break up the lines. The Bonnie falls a little short in displacement with 865 cc against 1,200 from Harley. As you might imagine, engine output falls off a bit with only 50.1 pound-feet of grunt against 70.8 from the Evo-powered Sporty. Still, both are good-looking engines. While the 1200T comes ready to roll for some light touring, the Bonnie can be kitted with a quick-release windshield and saddlebags, making it more than just a bar hopper, maybe a grocery getter or light tour bike. Neither bike is very impressive in the passenger department. Touring on light bikes is one thing, but riding pillion for long distances can be a special kind of hell. Oh well, there is always the aftermarket. You can score the Bonneville T1000 for $9,599, a couple grand cheaper than the basic black Sportster 1200T, but at the end of the day it comes down to looks, I think. The ancestral ties present in both designs pose an interesting tug-of-war, to go domestic, or to go Brit, that is the question. He said. My husband and fellow motorcycle rider, TJ Hinton, says, reminds me very much of how I set up my 85 XLX, with a windshield and bags for interstate traveling. Except I didn't have the luxury of rubber-mounted engines or even an Evo motor, it had an old ironhead. I would have almost donated a body part to have a factory-built Sporty set up like this, but I would have to insist in bigger bags, or at least soft bags that will accept a 1-gallon milk jug. No use as a grocery getter if it won't carry a gallon of milk. She said. I like the bigger rotors, 300mm over the old 292mm from 2015. With only 8mm difference, it might not seem like a lot, but when you need to stop, you need those brakes to stop you. More is better in my book, and dual front brakes would be even better. As a shorty, you know I'm all over the low seat height and narrow waist. With mid-mount controls and those awesome mini footboards replacing the pegs, this is right up my alley. Specifications.
If you liked this video, please share your thoughts in the comments below and don't forget to hit the subscribe button.